My name is Chris Johnson. I'm the director of the Niagara Falls Milsa Center, located here in Niagara Falls, New York. We're located at 7820 Porter Road, Niagara Falls, New York. Our telephone number is 716-940-8963. Our website is www.niagarafallsmilsacenter.com. This video is really intended for clients who are coming in to see us for weight management. And when we used to do this in person, it would take the first session that was normally an hour and stretch the session out to be about 90 minutes to 2 hours. So we're doing this video as a service to our clients coming in for weight management to help save time. And in this day and age with 21st century lifestyles and hecticness and people having to be in 7 different places at once, finding time to block out a 2-hour block of time in an office outside of the home was really hard for people to do. So by having this video online, when most people call our office, we schedule an appointment that's usually anywhere from 4 days to 10 days after that initial phone call. And they're able to watch this video. Gives them a lot of prep work involved for the work we're going to be doing in the office, so that when you come into the office, we can get right to work and do the work that you want to do and maximize the amount of time so you can have additional time to do all the other things that you have responsibilities to do. And I will note too, folks watching this video, if you've not done so already, please make sure you also watch the video called The Truth About Hypnosis. It'll be on the same page as this video on our website. So, in weight management, there's a lot of different things affecting weight. Habits, accidental teachings, how addictive food is, and I'm going to cover some of those things, how the mind works in conjunction with food, and also some of the pitfalls that some people have experienced. And some of these may apply to you watching this, some of them may not, but I'm just going over, in a general sense, what we encounter the most often when people come to see us for weight management here at the center. First, I'd like to cover briefly a book I highly recommend everybody read. It's called Salt, Sugar, Fat, and it basically blows the lid off of the processed food manufacturers in our country. And I mean the big boys, Kraft, General Mills, all the big boys, and they're literally making the food literally addictive. So it tastes so good, and it lights up the pleasure centers in the brain, you can't stop eating it. And they actually call this the bliss point, when it tastes so good. You see, in human beings, we have a natural shut-off valve inside of our heads. Basically said, you've had enough food, stop eating. The full signal, whatever it is, it says stop eating. When they manufacture the food so much that the food, we keep on eating and eating and gorging ourselves, and it tastes so good, we just can't stop eating. And they literally call this the bliss point, which is like astounding. And they do this by manipulating the salt, sugar, and fat levels in these foods. Even if it's a sweet food like a cookie, there's a certain amount of salt and fat in it. If it's a salty food, there's still sugar in it. And they make it literally addictive, so it tastes really good. And what's interesting about this is that even if you look, because I always recommend my clients, you be careful about labels. There's a lot of deceit in labels and advertising. You look at the label and it says, fat-free. Oh, okay, that's a better choice for that bag of chips. And you look at the salt, and the salt level is higher, perhaps, than the salt in a regular bag of chips that's not fat-free. Or you see something that's sugar-free. Well, the fat level is higher and so forth. So they manipulate those 3 levels so that you're still getting the same amount of junk in your body that is not needed. And what's interesting too about the 3 is that there seems to be, from a physiological standpoint, no shut-off valve for fat. Like, in other words, we'll just keep eating it. And sugar, if it's too sweet, based on our experiences and our palate, it'll be too sweet, and we'll say, oh, that's too rich, let's get it away from me. And even the same companies will manipulate it to other countries. One of my mentors flies overseas a great deal, and he was over in Asia, and his thing, one of his tempting treats that he'll allow himself to have once in a while is Cinnabon, the big company Cinnabon. And he had it overseas, and it wasn't the same. And it turns out that their sugar level for the same product is lower overseas because they've done tests. The companies have done taste tests to gauge what the average person's palate is in a certain culture or society, and they manipulate it so that it's not too sweet and it's sugary enough that they just keep on eating it. So even companies will take their products and vary them based on geographic locations and everything, which is fascinating. Also, we're all predisposed to having a sweet tooth, a sugar tooth. And this goes back to caveman times, back when we were evolving as a species, and we didn't have any modern refrigeration. We didn't have any kind of ways of preserving food. And fruit was in short supply, and the fruit would give us like an energy boost, and it's like, oh, and it light up the pleasure, the pleasure part of the mind, and this tastes really good. But we couldn't store it. We were basically hunter-gatherers. We were very nomadic. We walked a lot, to gather food and hunt and everything. So we learned as a species to hoard the food and just gobble it all up whenever we found fruit or sugary, natural foods in our environment. So basically, we all have a sugar tooth. But what's interesting is, even though there's a lot of people out there who are addicted to salty foods as well, there is no salty mechanism inside the body at birth. They've done taste tests with babies. They put a little bit of sugar on a finger, they go up to a baby and they have it lick it, and the baby likes it and they react. But with salt, it's like an acquired taste kind of thing. They do the same experiment. They put a little bit of salt on somebody's finger, the same baby licks it, and they kind of recoil. So salt is actually like an acquired taste kind of thing. So it's kind of pretty interesting. But we always recommend being aware of the labeling and how deceptive it can be, not only just in the 33% less fat and all those major things, but even if it'll say sugar-free in the package, and you look at it and it's got glucose in it or corn syrup and everything. They play games with the wording. So basically, what we say at the Niagara Falls Hypnosis Center, we're not dietitians, we're not nutritionists, but in a general sense, we recommend people pretty much shopping around the perimeter of the store. And what I mean by the perimeter of the store is the produce is usually along the walls of the store, the frozen foods, the meats, that kind of thing. It's also the bakery aisle is, unfortunately, in most stores. They usually have that in the perimeter too. But as much as possible, you want to avoid the middle of the store. That's all that processed stuff is stored. And the reason why it's in the middle of the store is because it's got the chemicals and preservatives in it, so it can sit on shelves for weeks and months at a time. And all those preservatives are not good for the body. So that's some general notes about how to shop at the store. Now, another thing we like to recommend is be aware of your water intake. A lot of people mistake hunger signals for thirst signals. In other words, they're actually thirsty. The body's actually clamoring, begging for more water into the body, even though there's no physiological need for food. People are like, oh, I feel an emptiness. I need something, and they get more food, and it's the body actually clamoring for more water. I forget what the percentage is, but our bodies are made of something like 80% of water, and we dehydrate very quickly and very easily. Now, that's just a little bit about nutrition. Like I said, when people come into our center, we're not nutritionists, we don't talk to you. It's about the relationship with food. And that's where the real meat of this video is going to come into place. Many people coming in have heard stories, that they all have a similar story, or most people have similar stories. When they were little kids, their parents would say to them, clean up your plate, they're starving children in China, or whatever the country was. Now, here's what happens. The child is sitting at the table, and they hear that message. They're cleaning your plate. They're starving children in China. Oh, you're not going to get up until that plate is clean, or whatever. And I'm not blaming, people for trying to harm their children, or if you're watching this and you have a child, and oh my God, I say that to my child too. I'm not trying to cast blame or anything. It's just how it is. But here's the reality of it: a human stomach's about the size of your fist. That's not very big. Then you look at a little kid, and the size of their fist, their stomachs are much smaller. So the kid's sitting at the table, and maybe they're pushing their food around, they're not eating, and they're just not hungry. They've had enough to eat. Maybe they had a late lunch, maybe they had a snack, whatever. So that natural mechanism kicked off in their heads saying, stop eating, you've had enough to eat. They feel full. The parent says, clean up the plate, the starving children in China, or clean up the plate. You're not going to get up until you leave. And so the child learns, I got to eat the food, and they keep eating, and their stomach expands, and they feel stuffed. And then this is typically repeated hundreds or thousands of times. Now what's going on as a parent, they don't want the kid to starve, they don't understand the stomach, and it doesn't look like much food to them. They want the kid to be nourished, they don't want to waste food, money doesn't grow on trees, you hear that kind of stuff too. So what happens is, the child, through a series of repetitions, hundreds or thousands, like I said a second ago, they learn to eat past a point of feeling full. And so as a result, what happens is that feels normal to them. So they sit down to eat, even as an adult, all this repetitious learning, they don't feel normal anymore unless they actually have, their stomach stretched to capacity, and it doesn't feel normal to them. Here's an idea of normal. If somebody walks up to you and they hold up their right hand, as a conditional response, a trigger, you reach up and you shake their hand. It's a conditional response. It didn't happen as a little kid. You had to be taught that. Through a series of repetitions, you shook somebody's hand, it becomes normal, and now the hand comes out, and typically people will shake each other's hands. It's a conditional response, it just happens. It goes back to Pavlov's dogs, like I mentioned in the other video, if you've watched The Truth About Hypnosis, the other video on this page. Pavlov's dogs, the scientist Pavlov, Ivan Pavlov, did experiments with food in dogs. He'd have dogs in the cage, he'd ring a bell, bring up the food, the dogs would smell the food, and they start to salivate. And after a series of repetitions, he could just ring the bell, no food, the dogs still salivate, conditioned response. So the kids learn through a series of repetitions that they don't feel normal unless they actually have their stomach's packed capacity, cleaning off their plate. If they see food on the plate, it's not normal and natural for them, it's just what they have to do. So we have this factor to overcome. Using hypnosis, we can help retrain the mind to begin to unlearn those old lessons and get the body back calibrated to accept that normal, full sensation in the mind. That's one of the things we work with. Then there's the emotional eating component to it. The kid comes home from school, and I mention this because most of this stuff, as a sidebar, most of this stuff is programmed when people are kids. Not always, but usually. Again, because when kids are younger, they don't have that critical factor in place. In other words, they don't have that dividing line between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. So they accept suggestions more rapidly. They learn more rapidly. But even as an adult, people learn when they're in an emotional state. They learn fears. We work a lot here with phobias, that kind of thing. So getting back to the emotions. The kid comes home from school. He's upset. He's crying. Oh, I got beat up at school. I'm sorry, honey. Have a piece of cake. You'll feel better. Or something like that. Those are just some generic examples. And it can be positive emotions, too. Oh, Johnny, you did great. You got a 98 on that test. I know you studied really hard. Let's celebrate. Let's have a cake. And then you think about birthday parties. The birthday parties is all about the cake, After you strip away the presents and the games and everything, everybody's around the table. They're all singing. It's like a ceremony. There's candles lit, and there's that big cake right there. It's all part of the process. So we learn all these things where food begins to linked to emotions. And then you look at our advertisers. It's crazy. The advertisers, they have very emotion-driven commercials. They have, I saw one recently where it was, you saw a picture of a film of the vat of chocolate being poured out, very luxurious and creamy and everything. And you hear this voiceover of this lady going, rich, creamy, succulent chocolate. And I'm thinking, is this a dating website or a food commercial? I mean, it was absolutely crazy. They use our emotions. Then you think about the food pyramid, the government pyramid. When I was growing up, I'm in my 40s now. This is 2015 as I'm recording this. It was you had the proteins up at the top, and you had the fruits and vegetables, and down here you had 12 servings of grains and everything. It was the government pyramid, and now we're learning that people follow that pyramid to the T. They're going to gain weight and probably become diabetic too. So you have all these factors working against us, all this learning, because again, a lot of this is repetitious learning. On the other video, I talked about the exercise of saying the alphabet. If I was to ask you right now, if you were in front of me and we were not on a video or face to face, to say the alphabet, you can rattle off the alphabet very, very rapidly. And it's just something, a conditioned response. You learn how to say it over and over and over again, so it's just normal and natural for you. So we have all these teachings we're exposed to, some emotion-based, some just, doing it over and over again, and it just feels normal and natural for us to do these things, even though our logical, rational, analytical mind knows that it's not actually the case, it's not healthy for us. So we decide, and the other thing too is when people have all these learnings, many times their metabolisms are quick enough that they burn the calories and they don't start gaining weight. So basically their metabolism is basically able to outrun those negative eating habits. And a lot of the stuff is generationally passed on. So the person's like, oh, I'm fine, I'm eating all this food and everything, their metabolism burns it off. Then maybe like around their 30s or 40s or 50s, the pounds start to come on. They've had all these learnings. The metabolism is no longer able to outrun, essentially, those negative eating habits. So the person decides, okay, I'm going to change my mind. And they struggle. They go to Weight Watchers. And Weight Watchers, as a sidebar on that, is a very conscious-based program. And what I mean by that is people go to Weight Watchers, and if you've never been there, I'll share a little bit of it with you. Because my wife and I were the Weight Watchers. I say that they do like 80% of the things right. I learned a lot of great recipes through Weight Watchers, but I didn't know how to cook until I went to Weight Watchers. I didn't know how to measure and everything. So they do a lot of things right, but there's a few things they do wrong, and I even told them this. So anyway, the person goes to Weight Watchers, they stand on the scale, so you're in an altered state right there, you're being judged, and the person says, oh, you're down 1.2 pounds. Okay, great. Then you go into the other room, and there's a leader there, and they actually call the person the leader. That's an interesting language right there. And everybody's sitting in a circle, and everybody's, sharing and everything, and the leader says, anybody have anything to celebrate today? You know, and the person raises their hands, they say, I've done 1.2. Oh, that's great, yay! They all clap, they build you up, they build up your willpower. And it's typically, for most people, it's a 7-day program. So you leave that day, and you're feeling really good. And like by day 2 or 3, the cravings start kicking in. All those old habits, that old subconscious programming is kicking in. So then by day 5, you're like, oh God, if I can just make it to the scale. Then you get to the scale, you know, on day 7, and okay, down 0.8, yay, they build you up again. And then what happens is, you know, people that have success in the Weight Watchers, but that old subconscious programming, the old learnings that they had kick in, is struggling to retain control. That's just how people are. You know, that subconscious programming is what's normal and natural to them. So then they stop doing, you know, the weight comes off. They stop going to Weight Watchers, whatever. And the weight starts coming back on. They've not gone back and altered that subconscious mind programming. They've not gone back and unlearned or relearned in a new way those old lessons as a child. You know, food was, you know, I hear a lot of people say, you know, food was scarce when I was growing up, so we learned to gobble up as much as we could. We didn't know how much of the next meal we were going to have. Or clean off your plate, you know, or the emotional eating, all those things I mentioned. You know, all those old programmings are kicking in. So they go to change their mind. You know, maybe Weight Watchers doesn't work for them. They tried Jenny Craig. They tried all these things. And they're gonna do willpower. Well, willpower, as I explain it, is just intended for like a short burst, just enough time to hit the gas and get past McDonald's. Willpower is not designed in your mind for long-term change. The subconscious mind has to be reprogrammed. We have to update the software in your mind, which is probably running at Windows 95, to use that analogy, and get it back up to 8.1. We'll skip Vista. So, you know, they want to update all that programming. So they go to change their mind, and without understanding how the mind works, they have troubles. I'll give you an example of what I mean, about how hard it is to kind of deprogram your mind without accessing the mind properly. Right now on the screen, there's going to be a graphic that's going to come up. I want you to read that sentence. I'm going to let it be up here for about 3 seconds. Okay, now the sentence is gone. And let me ask you, did that sentence say Paris in the spring? And I'm going to bring the graphic back up now, and I promise I did not alter it. Look at the graphic again. It actually says Paris in the spring. What happened was your mind learned grammatically as a kid growing up that there was no grammatical sense for 2 thes to be in a row. So basically your subconscious mind overrode the conscious mind that was reading that sentence and basically erased there's no reason for 2 thes, like I said, and it overrides the conscious mind. What this means is whenever we have a conflict between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind almost always wins. And your eating habits and your emotions and all those old learnings are in your subconscious part of your mind. So even though you're saying to yourself, God, I know what to do and I just can't seem to stick with it, that old subconscious mind programming kicks in. Fortunately, when you come into the office, we're going to demonstrate to you just how easy it is to bypass the subconscious mind. Because again, going back to the first video, The Truth About Hypnosis, you bypass your subconscious mind all the time, every day. You know, you zone out while you're driving, that kind of thing, and you accept suggestions in some cases that maybe may seem counterintuitive to what you normally do. So it's easy to bypass your subconscious mind, or pardon me, it's easy to bypass your conscious mind, get past the critical factor, and change your subconscious mind. Here's an example of real life from my own personal experiences. It was a while back. It was in the summertime. I was sitting at a red light on the Niagara Falls Boulevard, and I was getting ready to cross the light. The military is was my crossing road right there. As the red light, I was going to cross military. I had McDonald's on my right and Tim Hortons on my right to the other intersection, and I was going to cross over. Well, if you know that intersection, because most people reading this are going to be or listening to this, they're going to be from Western New York. The left light. Left-hand lane has a jump light. In other words, it turns green. There's a green arrow. You can turn left before this light going straight on on the Niagara Falls Boulevard will turn green. So I'm sitting there at that red light. I'm just in Pluto somewhere. I'm just like, my thoughts are gone. I was aware, but I wasn't aware. I was in a hypnotic state, like many of us go into. So I was not really paying attention, and all of a sudden I see this guy next to me out of my peripheral vision start to go. And he's turning left because he's got the jump light. And I start to go, and I had to hit my brake really quick and not run that red light and everything. So my subconscious mind was accessed, my critical factor was bypassed because I was in a hypnotic state. So it's easy to do it. And using hypnosis, what we're going to do with you in the office is help bypass your own critical factor and reprogram your mind using a lot of different techniques based on what you bring to us, because everybody's got their own thing. I'm going to show you now just how involved weight management can be. What I have here is a book, just one book of possible weight management hypnotic techniques. And this is just one book that I've got specifically for weight management. It's very complex. So when you come in for the sessions, we're not going to be doing generic sessions for you. It's going to be customized for you based on your needs. And it's, are you a chocoholic? Are you maybe a salty person? Is it late night snacking? Is it, many people, they don't eat a big meal in the day, but they just like nibbles throughout the day. Some people only eat 1 or 2 meals, but they're like really big portions. Some people it's emotional eating, boredom, stress, lonely, whatever. So based on what you bring to us is basically how we're going to structure the sessions to, do this reprogramming process. But there's a few things to touch upon briefly as far as what you can do when we're not in session. You see, what a lot of people do in terms of hypnosis, the hypnotist will have the person come in, learn a little bit about the person, have them close their eyes, deliver hypnosis suggestions to them, and send them on their way. And that's great. But in this program, we go a few steps further. We do the work in the chair based on what you bring to us. Secondly, we give you reinforcement techniques and distraction techniques. I'll explain that more in a moment. Third, we give you reinforcement CDs to listen to help reprogram your mind and help the stuff we're talking about in our actual sessions make everything stick. And then finally, we also have like written homework and just basically little written exercises that are designed to get you thinking and gives us information and how to structure the sessions that will most benefit you. So what you can do in terms of working on yourself between sessions is first of all, be aware of what you have in your house. In other words, turn your house into a safe place. In NLP and Neuro-Linguistic Programming, we talk about logical levels. We've got our environment, we've got our behavior, we've got our beliefs, we've got all these different things in our mind. So the first thing to do is take a look at your environment. Look at your house, look at your work. Do you have like cookies and potato chips and everything at your house? Make your house a safe environment. Get all the junk out. And I know many people watching this will say, well, what if the grandkids come over? Or my husband wants that stuff, or my kids, or whatever. And people actually say to me, why should my family have to suffer for what I'm going through? And that's one thing, and if that's you, that's one thing we'll work on. Having good food is not suffering, and attaining good health should not be suffering. You should work to get your whole family on board. So clean out the crap out of the house. Make your house a safe place. And if you can, if people are just refusing, and like, oh, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to have my stuff, at least ask them, 2 things. Ask them that, if they're going to bring the crap inside the house, bring crap that you don't like. Like I myself, I've got a thing for Doritos, ranch, potato. It's one of my triggers. I know not to bring it in the house. And my wife or somebody will bring some stuff in, and they know to bring in stuff that's loaded with cheese, because I don't like cheese. So if they bring in cheesy potato chips or cheesy Doritos, I'm not going to touch them because I don't like cheese. So it keeps me out of it. That kind of thing. So make your house a safe place as much as possible, or keep all that junk locked away somewhere where it's not going to be visually tempting you. Like, oh, you walk by and there it is. There's that bowl of candy, for example. Keep it out. That old saying, out of sight, out of mind, will help to a certain degree. But the best thing to do is just get it out of the house completely. Next, you can work on eating slowly and savoring the taste. One of the things that one of the misconceptions that some people have that eating healthy is like all bland food. I mean, believe me, if I had to eat nothing but raw broccoli every day, I couldn't do it either. So it's all about finding those good spices, things that are not fattening, like basil and thyme and ginger and garlic and all these great spices. Healthy food does not have to taste bland. I've got it at my house. When I first started learning how to cook, we had all these cookbooks, Weight Watchers, Cooking Light, all these healthy living cookbooks, and lean living, or whatever they're called. And we have all these recipes that we liked bookmarked and dog-eared and bookmarked and everything. And over time, it got to be our lives are so hectic. My wife has her own business too. We get home late. We don't have to sift through the cookbook and find whatever we want to find. So one thing I found that benefited me is every time we find a recipe that we both like, I put it into a specific notebook. I just write it down, and so I know I've got this notebook. I've got it built up now to about 85 recipes, and I know that if I don't want to think, I got all the vegetables in the house, I'm ready to go. If I haven't pre-planned, if I don't want to think, I know if I can grab this notebook, open up to pretty much any page, we're going to like what we make in there. So it makes it easy. So make this stuff easy for you. Get pre-cut vegetables and whatever you have to make it easy. And to me, it's all about the taste. So if it tastes good and it's healthy, yay, terrific. Excuse me. Good food does not have to taste bland or be unappetizing. Totally not true at all. And we can talk about that more if you wish when you come in to the center. But again, we don't deal primarily with food. It's about the relationship with food. So with that in mind, a couple of things to talk about are the language, the words you say to yourself. I find that if people say things like, I'll use one of my things is cheesecake. I'm not going to have that cheesecake. I'm not going to have that cheesecake. I'm not going to have that cheesecake. The way the mind works, it doesn't like contractions. It doesn't like negative thinking. It wants to reject negative words. So, as this example, right now as you're watching this, don't think of a pink elephant. Even for a split second, what probably popped into your mind, it was a pink elephant. It's a silly example, but I do that for a point. When we say we're not going to do something, with this two-step process in our mind, the way that it works, it doesn't like contractions. It first has to think about it, then it has to negate it. So instead of saying don't, you want to have whatever you say to yourself be positive. And I'll explain some science behind this in a second. So instead of saying, don't have that cheesecake, you're really saying to yourself, have that cheesecake. So a better thing to say to yourself is, I make a healthy choice right now. First of all, you're saying something positive to yourself, and I'll talk more about the science behind that in a second. I make a healthy choice right now. You're focusing on the positive. You're focusing on what you want, not what you don't want. Human beings, we typically try to go away from negative stimuli toward positive stimuli. So if you say to yourself, I make a healthy choice right now, you're focusing on what you want. You want to be healthy. You want to feel better about yourself. You want to look better in those jeans. You want to feel better about your health. You want people around you to make compliments. Whatever it is, whatever your reasons are, those are good reasons. We're not going to have you come in here and why do you want to reduce your weight? And those aren't good reasons. No, whatever you bring to the table, whatever your reasons are fantastic. But you want to say what you want, not what you don't want. So I make a healthy choice right now. So you're focusing on what you want, not that piece of cheesecake in my example. And by saying right now, you're just worried about that 1 minute. You're not worried about what may come, a year from now, a month from now, even 5 minutes from now. You're just worried about that one moment in time. I make a healthy choice right now. And by saying that, make a healthy choice right now, you're not saying to yourself, I'm never going to have this again. Because, then that whole deprivation attitude kicks in. Like, oh my God, I can never have this food again. So by saying I'm making a healthy choice right now, you're not making any kind of, promises you can't keep to yourself. You're not setting yourself for failure again. I'm making a healthy choice right now. And when you come into the center, we'll physically work and show you some physical distraction techniques you can do to help keep yourself frosty, as they say in the military, help keep you in the moment and keep that old subconscious mind programming from kicking in. So I make a healthy choice right now. And when you say to yourself things like, oh, I can't do this, or I suck, or this, oh, I hope this doesn't work, or I'm going to try to do this weight loss program, you're setting yourself up for failure. Things like try and hope, those are words like psychological rest to your brain. It lets self-doubt kick in. Here's an example. You're out someplace, and maybe you're at the grocery store or at the mall or whatever, and you bump into somebody, and you know the person. Maybe your next door neighbor, maybe somebody you know, but you're not particularly close to it. Maybe if you admitted it to yourself, you're not even particularly fond of this person. And they say, oh, we ought to get together. We ought to get our families together. We ought to go out and whatever. You ought to come over. And you say, yeah, I'll try to give you a call sometime. What happens? You don't actually call the person. The word try means you're not going to do it. It's just one of the weird things about our psychological makeup of our mind, typically, in our culture. So be aware of words like hope and try. Focus on the positive. I make a healthy choice right now, that kind of thing. And there's some science behind this stuff. When I talk about positive language, and in the book you're going to get, when you come in for the full program, it has like affirmations in it. I believe in myself, or I can make these healthy choices, and all these different affirmations in there. Here's an all-purpose affirmation. An affirmation is basically good soul food for your brain. All-purpose affirmation. There's no person, place, thought, idea, or anything to come from the past, in the present, or ever to arrive in the future that ever stopped me from achieving my goal. It's very positive. Now, the reason why positive language is important is because of something in our brain called the reticular activating system. A lot of this positive, self-talk, so to speak, it sounds like motivational speaker mumbo-jumbo. Like, you believe in yourself, yay! That kind of thing. And it sounds, for some people, it sounds very hokey. But there's some science to support all this kind of stuff. Inside your brain, there's a reticular activating system, a ganglion of nerves back here. And it's basically, the way I describe it, it's basically pattern recognition software. Here's an example. Whatever car you're driving, think about the car you're driving. And, was that your first car? I'll use a Buick LeSabre, for example. And let's just say, for example, your first car was a Buick LeSabre, or you have a Buick LeSabre right now. When you bought whatever car you're driving, did you suddenly start noticing that car more everywhere? That's your reticular activating system at work. It's basically pattern recognition software for your brain. Here's another example. You're sitting or standing watching this video, and you're aware of my voice, you're aware of my actions, I talk a lot with my hands, you're aware of these different things, but there's so much stimuli around you, you're probably not aware of everything that's going on around you. In fact, I bet you weren't aware of how your feet felt in your shoes or whatever was on your feet or underneath your feet until I mentioned it just now. And here's what I mean by that. Around us, at any particular point in time, we've got hundreds, thousands, even millions of potential stimuli competing for our attention. If you're out in public, for example, there's like billboards and sounds and weather and people and sounds and colors and all kinds of different things competing for your attention. And it's too much for your mind to comprehend on a conscious level. It'd be like everything would be like a blur, okay? And that's one of the reasons why we have a conscious mind. It's a filtering mechanism, so we can focus on different tasks no matter what's going on around us. So, you got all the stimuli going on around you. And in the case of the car, you bought the new car, and you've got the car payments, you're thinking about washing the car or upkeep or whatever it is you're thinking about the car. So that pattern recognition software, the ganglion of nerves in your brain basically says, oh, they're thinking about that car. Let's make those cars be more noticeable. They're always there. The same amount of those cars are always there. You just notice them more often. So that's your pattern recognition software at work. So when you say negative things to yourself, like, oh, I hope I don't fail with this particular weight loss program, or I hope I do good, or man, I don't think I can stick with this. You're basically giving yourself a suggestion. Is what we call in hypnosis auto-suggestion. Giving yourself a suggestion in the waking state. So basically what's happening is, oh, I hope I can do this. I don't think I can do this. And now your brain, that ganglion of nerves basically goes, oh, okay, let's make all the things that could derail success more prevalent to their awareness, because that's what they're thinking about. So positive self-talk is really important. And it may not feel natural at first. Once you were aware of this stuff, and I've had clients tell me, once they start doing these little exercises and they're aware of this stuff, they're like amazed at how negative people are around them. Like, oh my God, I never noticed this before. It's going to it will probably change your awareness of the world around you. And to assist in this awareness and this reprogramming of your mind to focus on the positive and not fixate on the negative, I recommend you limit your intake of the news. Newspapers, talking heads on the evening news and everything. It's so negative and it brings people down. I quit watching the news about 8-9 years ago when I first became aware of this stuff. When I first got in, a year or two after I got involved in the world of hypnosis, I'm like, oh my God, it's just so negative. It brings people down. It affects our moods and everything. And now, if I'm at an airport, flying to a gig or something like that, excuse me, and I happen to have the news on, I can't control it, I have to be there because my plane's going to board, I hear the news, it really brings me down. It's amazing how much it can bring you down. So if possible, limit your intake of the news. It'll help your mood tremendously, I believe. When you come in for your actual session, we're going to talk more about physical distraction techniques, little things you can do on your own to help get your mind out of the subconscious mind programming, like, oh, this is how I've always ate. I just habitually reach for potato chips or whatever it is, or cravings. A craving only lasts a couple of minutes. So I'll teach you some different things to get your mind off of the cravings. For example, have you ever been sitting in your house and you say to yourself, oh, I think I'll go get a drink of water, or maybe a bag of chips, or a snack, or something, and you go to get up to get it. And as you're getting up, maybe the phone rings, or somebody catches your attention, they call your name, and like an hour goes by, and like, oh, I never had that snack, or that drink of water. This happened to everybody. So I'll teach you some techniques in the office. Either myself or the hypnotist you're working with will teach you some techniques to help retrain your mind, to get your mind off of whatever it is you're thinking about, so you're not fixated on it anymore, but you've actually distracted your mind, and you can actually get your mind off of it and begin this retraining process, this reconditioning, as we were. Not to make comparisons to people like Pavlov's dogs, but we are animals. We can use this to our advantage. Instead of running away from it, we can embrace our physiology and our neurology and use it to our advantage instead of trying to fight against it like people have been doing incorrectly for so many years. And getting back to the positive self-talk and this retraining process, this stuff has profound implications. And what I mean by that is mental rehearsal. I'll illustrate it with a story. There was a University of Chicago study done many years ago, and they had 3 basketball teams. I believe, if memory serves, it was about a month-long study. And during this month-long study, they had 3 basketball teams, and the first basketball team for the entire month, they did not do anything physical. They were the control group. They basically took the month off. They didn't do any exercising, they didn't work any teamwork, no passing, no dribbling, no dunking, nothing. And as you would expect, they had 0% improvement. They went out, they played, no improvement whatsoever. You'd expect that. Second basketball team that did everything you would expect a basketball team to do physically over the course of that same month. They exercised, they worked on their cardio, they worked on their free throws, their jump shots, their rebounds, their teamwork, their passing, everything. And as you would expect, they had improvement. They had 40% improvement. Cool. Now the third basketball team, here's where it gets really interesting. The third basketball team, they did not do anything physical for that month. But for the same amount of time for that same month they would have spent working physically, the coach had to sit down and close their eyes and visualize a perfect pass, visualize themselves making the perfect dunk and everything. And you know what? After that month was over, they went out, 38% improvement. Nearly as much improvement as the folks who did everything physically. So getting our mind in the game is paramount to how this stuff is going to benefit you. So that's a little bit about background about weight loss factors and how the mind works pertaining specifically to weight loss and how we're going to help you here at the Hypnosis Center. We're going to go into a lot more in-depth discussion, demonstration, and learning about you so we can help you be the person you want and deserve to be. I want to thank you for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you soon at the Niagara Falls Hypnosis Center. My name is Chris Johnson. Talk to you soon.